I know, there are cars other than the Porsche 911 that you could restomod, which means restore/modify. But Porsche builds a lot of cars, a lot of racing cars, and with easy instructions saying how to seam weld them, and with mounting points for wide race suspension already fitted, they lend themselves to it perhaps more than any other car. This is one of the latest. Theon Design from Oxfordshire, England has been doing these for the past 6 years. It's based on a 964, and the customer for this one said he wanted a car good for both Saturday morning outings but also long trips around Europe. And because he's a fan of old Jaguars, he likes superchargers. So it gets one. There's a Rotrex centrifugal supercharger where the air conditioning pump, which is now in the front, used to be, while the engine has been rebuilt with flowed and ported heads, a lightened bottom end and independent throttle bodies. Power is 400 horsepower and torque 367 foot-pounds. There are composite panels inside and out, and the Theon weighs 1,265 kilos, down from the original's 1,350. It is beautifully finished, as well it might be for the £500,000 or so it'll cost you once the donor car and taxes are all paid for. Question is, what's it like to drive?
Okay, so welcome to the inside of this Theon modified 964, and what I like about old 911s, I like about a lot of old cars actually, it's the fact that visibility is fantastic. Visibility is really good. It's a compact car. You can see the sort of two wings, and you can really, point the car down the road using those as a gauge of how wide it is. It is a little bit wider even than a 964 turbo. It's about 10mm wider each side, but you wouldn't know it to look at it, would you? And it certainly does not feel a wide car to drive. Cars have naturally got wider, heavier, not necessarily harder to see out of, but there's just more of them all around. This just has that lovely compactness of an old car without feeling in any way like an old classic car. The shell feels rigid and stiff. Everything feels like it's got that sort of Porsche integrity, almost like the Porsche integrity of today. It's just, the control weights are solid. It's got a really nice sort of medium weighted responsive steering. Gear shift is fantastic. It's a 5-speed box and it's really accurate, and only if you're sort of going from reverse to first would you ever sort of not necessarily put it in the right one as standard. It's just a lovely gear shift, and because the engine response, which I'll come on to a bit more in a moment, is so linear and electric, it's really easy to match the revs too. Brake pedal feel is stiff. Pedals are ever so slightly offset to one side, but not by very much. All of that combined makes it a terrifically easy car to sit in, settle into, and feel comfortable in, and have the car sort of shrink around you. So once you're settled in, take in the surroundings. It's beautifully done. It's really lovely. The stitching's perfect. Material quality is really good. A lot of the stuff has been taken out, replaced with carbon fibre, and then had sort of leather applied over the top and finishes over the top, which is why this car, A, weighs in the sort of 1,200 kilo range, but it's also just taken a long time to do it. 6,000 hours worth of work inside and out. But it does mean the owner of this car wanted a car that they could drive kind of as a GT car, and the interior certainly has that kind of ambience. It really has this kind of chilled, relaxed, nicely finished feel. There's nothing raw or too raw about it in any way. And so to the way it drives. And like I say, the owner wanted a GT-ish sort of car. God, it drives beautifully. It drives really, really nicely. With some sort of 911 resto mods, they move things from the back to the front in the way that Grunt does. It's moved quite a lot of the ancillaries from the back to the front to even up the weight, and then it puts a massively wide track on the front. And part of the idea behind that is to make it feel less like a traditional 911, if you like, to try and even up that weight balance, improve the turn in, make it less lively at the rear on the way out. Theon has not tried to make this less of a 911. It's just tried to sort of turn up the sharpness of character. The 964 is quite a chilled, quite a relaxed, quite a soft 911. Adam, who does this car, has just tried to sort of amplify all of the sort of racier bits while keeping some of that some of that everyday GT-ness and chilledness. So it runs a 5-stage adjustable suspension, so you can firm it up if you want to, but on roads like this, and these are bad southern England roads where you get sort of something going on this side of the road that's different to this side, the cambers are all off, it's tight, it's twisty. This is really good. It's really good. Body control is absolutely tight, but the ride is just so perfectly supple. You kind of run over potholes, drain covers and things like that, and there's no crash, there's no thud or thump. It just glides over stuff, and yet body movements are really beautifully tied down. Steering has that sort of trademark 911 sort of medium weight most of the time, but it weights up a little bit as you put some weight on the front under braking, lightens a bit under load, and it's just got that sort of balance that you're aware there is an engine out the back. And what an engine. Right, so it's just really nice to even do that, just to sort of blip it down as you're on the brakes, and because the brake feel is so solid, it's easy to heel and toe it. The response is beautiful. It's so easy to drive a car this analog really smoothly. That is something. But anyway, what I really want you to do, that's 2,000 revs. Now the owner wants that chatter from the supercharger to remind him that it's supercharged, because you don't really get too much noise of it on the way up. But there is that chatter on the overrun, which I've got to say, I rather like. More importantly, the owner wants it. And it gets going early, and it pulls with brilliant linearity. Some real sort of anger if you want it to, because there is a small button here, which I give it a push, and some valves open in the exhaust. Now you wouldn't want that all the time, I don't think, but from time to time, on the right road, it just adds, well, it just adds a bit of extra fruit. I think most of the time I would be driving it in its GT-ish. It still sounds really good, even with that exhaust closed. This is a thoroughly well sorted, well finished, really engaging to drive. It's a great sports car, a really great sports car. I like it a great deal. It's beautifully done at £500,000 or thereabouts. It is a lot of money, but so are all of these cars. There's loads of these restomods, if you want to call them that. I mean, that is what they are, restored modified cars. There's a lot of them. I've become a lot more discerning about them because there are so many of them these days. This is a really good one. This is a really good one. The owners have all got loads of money. They've all got big collections of cars. They want cars to do a specific thing. This one does it, and does its job really well. Absolutely fit for purpose. I really like it. Really like it. So thank you for joining me. We have plenty of other videos here on the Autocar YouTube channel, including resto mods such as, in fact, I really like this video. There's a Tuthill Porsche 911, an Alphaholics GTAR, and a Jensen Interceptor done by somebody. Anyway, there's a good vid elsewhere. We've got loads of other vids. We're at autocar.co.uk all the time. You can get the magazine on digital subscription or in print, as it has been every week since 1895, don't you know? We've also got podcasts and all kinds of other stuff going on, because that is the modern media landscape. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.